So, Helen Edwards, I work in our Secondary Learners Directorate, specifically in the Student Pathways area. So, supporting young people in their journey through secondary school and onwards and beyond into the things they do after that. So, does anybody have a child who is at secondary school at the moment? Okay.
Grandchild.
Yes, or a grandchild, absolutely. Okay, so SACE Board, which is the South Australian Certificate of Education, so that's what students are aiming for when they leave school. They put out these great little booklets for Stage 1 and Stage 2 SACE, targeting students and their families, just with some information about subjects and how to navigate your way through the SACE. So these will be useful background information for you.
Do they go to the schools or?
They do go to schools, so I would hope that your children, grandchildren would have seen them and have a copy of them. Every student should get one, but I thought I'd let you know about them in case you haven't seen them. The other thing that I'm responsible for is when students go out on work experience, which happens a lot in secondary school. We have developed these little booklets, which are just some general information. There's one targeting parents and carers, one specifically for students, and one for workplace providers. Just talking about roles and responsibilities when you go out into the workplace. So for young people with learning difficulties and disabilities, it's extra important to make sure they're well prepared when they go out into the workplace, that they know what to do if something happens that they don't feel comfortable with. And it is actually the school's responsibility to take them through some training before they actually get to the workplace. But these booklets are a general guide around that. I've also put in some information about different transition programs that we have at school, which are offered to your students. So this disability transition program is managed by Barkuma. We've been running this for 10 years now, and I think it's a fantastic program. So there is more detail about it on their website. If you have any questions about it, please ask me, but I'll refer to it as we go through. When young people leave school, they may be eligible for a disability employment service. This is one of the huge number of Commonwealth services that are available. But if you don't know about it and understand it and know what the eligibility criteria are, it's quite hard to navigate it. So here's some information about the services available in South Australia, what they offer, and some questions to ask them to make sure that you are connecting with the right service for your young person. So hopefully that's helpful. Also some information generally about disability employment services and which one might suit your particular needs. The department also has 2 transition centres. We have the Dawes Road Centre and the Prospect Centre. So I've just put a little flyer of their information there, and I'll refer to them again as we go through. Another one of the programs I'm responsible for, this is probably a bit overwhelming, isn't it? But we'll go through it one by one. We have people who work across the state called apprenticeship brokers, and they support young people who are interested to get into school-based apprenticeships and vocational programs. So when we come to this, that'll be that little flyer. And I also printed off the Bedford website some general information about the NDIS, which I assume you know exists, don't you? Some of you might have, some of you had contact with it already. All a bit daunting. So that's coming generally for more of our young people down the track. So that's just what's in your folders, and now I can give that one to you. Okay. The transition from schooling, through schooling, and what happens afterwards. So it's a process where we have to help our young people prepare and plan for it so that they're working towards their goals. and working towards what they think they want to achieve in the future. So we're aiming to make it a smooth transition process. That's the goal, for it to be empowering both for you and the young people that you care for, that they can make and you can support them to make informed decisions along the way. As many choices and options and opportunities that are available to them, we can support you with managing those choices, and they have a sense of direction and purpose. I think that's what we all want for our children, isn't it? And for the children that we're talking about, sometimes it's a bit more challenging, and therefore we have to really think about it and prepare and plan for it. Often being parents and grandparents of young people with disabilities and learning needs is very stressful, isn't it? I have a son who has a verified disability, not a severe one, it's a language and communication one. He's doing year 12 at the moment, so I'm relating to this slide quite significantly. So I can understand and empathise with you on the journey that you are all going through. It's not always easy. We have to start early in secondary school. So probably like me, you have all been advocates for your young person at school and through life. And you know, in some ways you are the most important person who can advocate for their needs and make sure you keep those teachers on track. What we want to do is build their career development skills. These are general life skills and employability skills, which mean that they can make informed decisions about where they're heading, what they want to do with their lives. So we all, schools and you, all have a responsibility to support the building of those career development skills. Sometimes you may need to insist on a negotiated education plan meeting. Do people generally have NEP meetings with their schools? Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Do they have to be verified? Is it verified support to get the NEP?
Yes.
They have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they can have a learning plan if they have a learning difficulty.
Right.
So they can have an individual learning plan.
Does the NEP from primary school go to the high school? Like, how does that transition?
The primary school follows the NEP through to the secondary school, and then the secondary school person responsible should have it, read it, understand the needs of the young person, and then coordinate from there. My experience is that secondary schools don't do it as well as primary schools, but you know, that's my personal.
And is that because there's that sort of general view that they should be more independent and responsible going into high school?
I think it's what Ingrid talked about. In secondary school, they might have 6 or 7 different teachers. So it's about coordinating and planning, everybody knowing what's happening for that young person, and you really need one person in the school to lead that process for it to work effectively. You know, that's where you have to be a strong advocate, I think. And as the young person moves into year 9, 10, the subject choices, and then 11 and 12, that transition planning component to it becomes even more important, doesn't it? Because that's you, the young person, the school, and any agencies all tracking together about subject choices, future pathways, you know, experiences that need to happen to make them possible. So that's the one, I guess, piece of documentation that we have that everybody has access to that can be used for transition planning.
Does a primary school NEP template differ to a high school NEP?
Now, people know about the SACE. So generally, in most schools, it starts in year 10 when young people do the personal learning plan, which is one of the compulsory components of the SACE. There's also a compulsory literacy and numeracy component, and the research project is compulsory. The rest of the subjects are negotiated. The personal learning plan is a subject which enables young people to think about their futures, to identify their skills, strengths, interests, start doing some research, doing some work experience to find out the kinds of things that they might be interested in, might be good at, and then they can head towards thinking about their future. Also, as part of the SACE, we have the modified SACE. This is available for young people with a verified intellectual disability. So it's the same subjects, but they're all modified, and the certificate at the end is slightly different. The certificate says that it is actually a modified SACE. So for some young people, this is an appropriate pathway to take, and that would be negotiated with your school. There's actually a form that has to be filled out and sent into the SACE board, so that's something to make sure you are aware of. I've put the link on the SACE board there to the modified section. And Sharon is the project officer at the SACE board responsible for the modified SACE. So if you want to pursue that, you could give her a call.
Is it now that it does it over year 11 and year 12?
Yes, you do this SACE generally over year 11 and year 12. Some students do it over year 13 as well.
And some start year 10 too.
And some start in year 10. Usually the PLP, Personal Learning Plan, is in year 10. Generally not any other SACE subjects, although occasionally vocational education and training courses can be done at year 10.
And it says 30 subjects, 30.
All of that. But those little booklets that I gave you, they will give you lots of information about the SACE subjects at year 11 and year 12. So have a look at the booklet as well. So through school, there should be lots of great opportunities for young people to develop their skills. So from my perspective, work exposure is so important for young people with learning difficulties and disabilities. Getting them out in the workplace to have a look at it, to see what the expectations are, the way you're meant to dress, the way you talk to people, the way people interact. It's all of those employability skills about communication, teamwork, being on time, dressing appropriately. They can't really learn those at school. They have to get out into the community and the workplace to learn those kinds of skills. So often there are tours, schools organise guest speakers to talk about the range of different work opportunities that exist. They can research the pathways. There are career expos that happen every year. So there's the general mainstream career expos. There's also the disability career expo. Has anybody been to that one? Probably worth going to. It has the whole range of pathways, not just employment pathways, but other kinds of pathways like day options. So it gets pretty well advertised. Usually it's advertised in the advertiser, but your school will also know about it. So keep an eye out for those career expos. Also, you can do a vocational education and training course at school. This is a vet course. This is like going to TAFE. You can actually start it at school. And for some young people, this is fantastic because a lot of vet courses are more practical, hands-on than, sitting at a desk all day. It really suits quite a few people. And there are a range of vet courses that are offered. So depending on which school your child goes to, that school might offer some vet courses, or the cluster of schools in that region will offer vet courses for all of the students across that region. So generally your vet coordinator, the disability coordinator should be able to let you know about those courses. And they'll be part of the subject choice conversation.
They do it at the hospital. They go somewhere.
A range of ways. Some they're actually done at the school. Some they go out to another school. Some they go out to a training organisation like TAFE and actually do it there on site. So there are a range of those offerings. So that's something to think about too. My son did a certificate due in hospitality to become a chef. So he went from one school to another school 1 day a week and did that course and finished it and got his Cert 2, which was fantastic because now he holds that qualification. The other option, and that's that brochure I held up for you, school-based apprenticeships. So this generally happens in year 11 and 12. for young people who are pretty clear about the pathway that they're keen on. So they have to be pretty certain that this is something they're interested in. So a school-based apprenticeship is a combination of being at school maybe 3 days a week, going to a training organisation like TAFE for maybe 1 day a week, and then going to your employer for another day a week, and you get paid for that employment because you actually have a contract, like a work contract with that employer. So for some young people, this is a great way to navigate their way through school, and all of the training they do counts towards the SACE, so they still come out at the end with their SACE qualification. So just using my son again, he began a school-based apprenticeship as a chef. He began doing a Certificate 3 in commercial cookery. So he worked 4 days a week, at school 4 days a week, and then he had 4 sessions of working at the Hackney Hotel. So he began that process. He didn't continue after a year, he stopped it. But that's okay too, because that's also part of deciding that's not the future that I want. So it helps young people understand what their options are and whether that's something they want to pursue. So that's another thing to talk to your vet coordinator about.
So what year level was he when he started?
He started it in year 11 actually. So he did the vet course in year 10, which is quite young, but that suited him. And then he went on to the school-based apprenticeship in year 11. Now, our transition programs. So I mentioned to you Dawes Road Transition Centre and Prospect Centre, and you've got the little flyer for those. So they are generally available for students in Metro Adelaide schools. They offer a range of programs, so generally a student will be at their main school and they might go to one of these centres 1 day a week over a year, and they might be doing their SACE subjects at the centre, or they might be doing some vet courses at the centre. So this is also a good option just to break up that mainstream schooling of 5 days a week, where we have specialised centres that can offer specialised learning and support for young people with disabilities and learning needs. So that's another one. Have a look at your brochures. The Disability Transition Program is the one I mentioned that Barkuma manages for us. This goes across the 3 schooling sectors. So this is a program that over the year, a young person will go out 1 day a week for a year. So in the first semester, they will go to places like TAFE, and they will develop all their employability skills, their career development skills, and then in semester 2, they will go on to do a vet course. And attached to that is some work experience. And then the good thing about this, and generally with the transition centres too, they will seamlessly connect that young person to a disability employment service before they leave school. So they will help identify what's the most appropriate service for that young person to move on to when they transition from school. So there are some options there for you to consider.
What are the options for rural kids?
Oh, so tricky. It really is.
Not that I'm in
Again,
that position.
no. We have, in the program I work in, we have people around the state, like our apprenticeship brokers. We have people called Student Pathways leaders who work with groups of schools and offer vet programs. So they often try to connect with local community organisations like Arana and places like that are scattered across the state, and try to get some transition kind of bridging programs happening for those people. So it really depends which area, and if you did get inquiries, you could contact me and I could say, contact this person because I know they'll know what's going on in that area. Yeah. But we do acknowledge that regional areas are more difficult and more challenging to service. In terms of post-school options, you all know about day options. So if you have a young person who is moving into a day options option, then it's a fairly well-structured, organised process. And that site there gives you a lot of information about day options opportunities. And again, you would manage that with the school and prepare the young person for those opportunities and do some transition visits, that kind of thing. The other option for pathways after school is the disability enterprises, what we know as supported employment. Now, I didn't realise that Bedford and Phoenix have actually amalgamated, so they've brought all their programs together so they can offer actually a bigger, better service with a lot more programs and services than they have in the past. So I've given you their website. They're still called Bedford, but they've combined the two organisations. They offer employment. So you might have seen their ads around packaging. They have a good horticulture program, they offer manufacturing, and they have a strong hospitality program. So these are some employment options with them. They also provide training, like vocational training, and they have independent life skills training. They have accommodation at Panorama there. What's that? Balliana. Yeah. And they do also have a day options program. So, that organisation does have quite a bit to offer. Then you have further education and training. So you can go on to TAFE or other registered training organisations, and there's a huge range of vocational courses depending on what the young person's interests are. University is a pathway, and all of the universities have a disability specialist section within them to provide support for prospective students moving in there who have disabilities. So it's a matter of connecting with those support services there. Volunteering is another really important option, just to get young people out of home, away from the TV, away from the electronics, giving them a sense of purpose. So, if they're not quite ready to pursue another pathway, they could be trying some volunteering just to get them out, out in the world. Really good option. And some young people are amazingly entrepreneurial. They run their own businesses. They just have an idea and off they go and run their own businesses. So you might have a really clever young person who's, really quite focused around a particular idea. It might be IT skills, small business.
Sorry, I saw one in Queensland and she had a shredding business.
Right.
So she didn't actually read and she didn't actually speak. I think she was Down, but she couldn't speak very well and couldn't read. So they thought shredding was the perfect job.
Fantastic.
Because there was no way there was no confidentiality problem. And now all these people who's like Cowsby or something like that, all these businesses employ their like bakes and that to do all the shredding for it.
Yeah. That's great, isn't it? And you can often get start-up funds from the government, especially young people, to get a business up and running. So it's really something to think about depending on who the young person is. You know about the disability support pension. Once a young person turns 16, if they're eligible, you go through the Centrelink process for that. We have National Disability Coordination Officers, so I've put the link to their website. They have a wealth of fantastic transition planning resources on their website, so I really recommend that you go and have a look at what they've got there. We have 3 offices in South Australia, which is check out the website. And as I said, the NDIS is becoming fully functional in 2018, so it's really, watch this space to see what impact that is going to have on our range of programs. And the flyer I've given you from Bedford tells you some of the things that they do and do not cover, support and finance. So really all of us will be learning together around, the NDIS, won't we, and how that's going to impact